In 2022, the U.S. Forest Service ignited the largest wildfire in New Mexico history. 2 prescribed burns scheduled on a windy, dry day, one at Hermit's Peak and one at Calf Canyon, burned out of control, decimating almost 350,000 acres. For those living in the path of the flames, it wasn't just a disaster. It was the end of a way of life.
So it burned my grandmother's house that my grandfather had built. It was an adobe home. It burned. Everyone here lives off the land. You sell live trees. You sell dead trees. You sell vigas. You sell rock. You sell dirt. Sand. We make use of our resources, of our natural resources that we have. And that's how people make a living.
They survived the fires, the floods, and the smoke. And neighbors in the burn scar, like people here living in Sapeo, tell me the most difficult part is surviving the paperwork.
We turned to a lawyer to advocate, well, not advocate, but to counsel for us, because the paperwork is incredible. I mean, I've been to school with Laura. I'm an educated man, and the paperwork is overwhelming. And the ridiculous requests they make of you to do, you got to work. You don't have time.
The federal government promised to make the victims of the fire whole, allocating almost $5.5 billion for compensation through a dedicated FEMA claims office. But many say they have yet to see it.
I haven't received zero. I haven't gotten any smoke damage. I haven't gotten a fencing.
Almost 4 years later, while dozens wait in trailers and debt, one man at the top of that office and his wife have already been paid to the tune of $500,000.
My private residence. Get out of here.
Okay.
That's the voice of Jay Mitchell, the director of FEMA's Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon Fire Claims Office. Internal documents obtained by Source New Mexico and NMPBS revealed that last July, Mitchell received a payout of roughly $266,000 for smoke and ash cleaning at his home in Angel Fire. And his wife Lisa received more than $258,000 last August for business-related losses she claimed. We attempted to reach Mitchell by phone and at his office, but he didn't answer, and his security guards tried to lie to us to get us to go away.
Is that door 1712?
What direction should I go to find 1712?
Actually, sir, it says 1712 right above your head.
This one's 1711.
Not according to those numbers right there.
All right, just hold on one second.
Thank you very much.
We then went to Mitchell's home in Angel Fire, a ski resort town about an hour's drive from the hardest-hit communities. The house in Casita, valued at nearly $800,000, sits on a hillside overlooking his neighborhood. He and his wife were less than happy to see us. I caught most of the interaction on video, but I kept the microphone rolling.
What do you want?
Hi. Is Jay home?
Get the out of here.
Okay.
She's probably...
Yeah.
I'm
My private residence. Get out of here.
okay.
By the way, this is harassment. You better leave me alone.
Yeah, we're leaving.
Good.
This is Patrick Lohman, a journalist at Source New Mexico who's been reporting on this fire and its aftermath since the match was lit. We teamed up for this story and went to Angel Fire together to get to the bottom of it.
So down to the cul-de-sac over here is a guy named John and his wife. And
We spoke to a few of Mitchell's neighbors, including this man, Michael Martinez. Martinez lives half a mile northeast of Mitchell. He says he remembers the smell of smoke in 2022, but not the damage.
there was no smoke damage to my house at all. Personally, I didn't see anything. We never had a day where smoke was that bad coming in. We have pictures of it just blooming up over to the south of us and even from Taos, but never anything that really hit at least our neighborhood. So.
Within the 534 square mile burn scar, where hundreds of homes were lost, victims were promised a fast, lawyer-free claims process. But many say that hasn't panned out. They were able to file back in 2022, but they needed itemized evidence, financial records, loan information, etc. And the Smoke and Ash program is separate. It launched 2 years later in the spring of 2024 and covers a much larger 2,200 square mile zone with way easier requirements. There, the burden of proof is low, with some residents only needing to sign a declaration to get a payout. While the Mitchells' smoke and business claims were processed and paid quickly, some of those who were hit the hardest are still waiting.
So these trees died from the fire, and you can see like some survived and some didn't. And then right up through here, everything was gone. It is really disheartening and disturbing that he received this. This is dated July 21st. I think Jay Mitchell has not been honest with people. He is not putting the people in the burn scar first like he said he would.
Yolanda Cruz is a community advocate who helps neighbors navigate the grueling FEMA process. She showed us her backyard, what actual fire damage looks like. Hillsides of blackened toothpicks so saturated with soot that it coats her hands just by touching a tree.
How do you justify saying, okay, Yolanda, you get $200,000 and your neighbor across the street or 2 streets down gets nothing? And if Jay Mitchell cannot make the policies work for people, how are they working for him? Like that just makes no sense to me.
A map analyzed by NMPBS and Source New Mexico shows Mitchell's home is less than 1,000 feet from the boundary line that allows claimants to receive smoke money with almost no proof. Small business owners in the burn scar say they've also been stonewalled. Sarah Matthews owns Barachos, a local favorite, and has been a vocal advocate for business owners in Las Vegas.
Businesses like mine, who have quantifiable losses in the millions, haven't been paid a penny. We can't even get paid our smoke damage money. We can't even get our SBA loans repaid. We can't even get our flood insurance premiums repaid with or without a lawyer. I think it's disgusting that people like Jay Mitchell, who have sat at tables with me, and women who lost their homes, have not been compensated for total losses, but they receive smoke damage money.
Matthews says her town is dying as the workforce disappears and businesses close their doors forever.
It's kind of like the systematic decimation of our community. It feels like they're trying to kill us slowly and choke us out is what it really feels like. Anyone with integrity would have made sure that people who lost property, who lost homes, who had total losses were compensated before it just became a money grab for the people who are well connected.
For those who lost everything, the money isn't a windfall, it's survival.
We lost our home, total loss, our pets, our vehicles. We lived at a motel for 9 months, which was very hard.
Anita and Andrew Vigil say they've begun to rebuild with the small amount FEMA paid them for the loss of their home. But it's not enough to cover everything.
Peanuts. They gave us peanuts. Let's put it that way.
But that money they gave us, we used it for progress towards the property.
To
'Cause
rebuild.
I cleaned my property itself.
They now live in a FEMA trailer that they feel they were forced to buy.
Because the offer that they gave us, we had to take it because we wanted to come back home. He wanted to come back home. We didn't have a choice but to purchase the FEMA trailer, which they shouldn't have even sold to us. They should have just gave it to us because they burnt our house down.
Can I add on to that? The FEMA trailer that was sold to them, and along with other neighbors that did purchase those FEMA trailers, they're all electrical. For this rural area, the electricity goes off all the time. So these trailers were not equipped for this area. They weren't suitable for this area.
Laura Silva is an advocate for her neighbors. She didn't lose her home, but she knows the cost of the fire intimately.
We had my little niece that 9 years old, and she came to visit. We all knew she had asthma. She was exposed to some of that smoke. Well, when she went back home to Albuquerque, my little niece, Amaya, had a reaction with her asthma, and she passed. This little girl was everybody's sunshine, you know?
And she told me her husband's cancer has returned, which she attributes to the unrelenting stress.
We didn't ask for the fire. They threw it on us.
We didn't light the match.
And we're the forgotten clan. We are. FEMA knows that they're going to have to pay long-term for those non-economic damages, for the mental anguish that they put on us, and the continued mental anguish that they've done to us. They don't want to pay. Okay, so then if you don't want to pay for non-economic damages, pay for the things you can pay. And they don't do it. They don't move it. They're all in suspension, all our claims.
In late 2022, members of New Mexico's congressional delegation fought to secure the $5.45 billion in federal funding through the passage of the Hermit's Peak Fire Assistance Act. Since Patrick's story about the Mitchells' FEMA payments went live, at least 3 of our state's federal lawmakers, including Teresa Leger Fernandez, have called on Jay Mitchell to resign, citing a lack of transparency and a failure to meet the standards of the office. As of today, 74 people who lost their homes are still waiting for their final compensation offers. For them, the fire isn't just a memory, it's a daily struggle against the very agency meant to help them. For New Mexico in Focus, I'm Kaylee Chella reporting.